You're about to listen to a new episode of the Redefining CyberSecurity Podcast with Sean Martin. Have you ever thought we're selling cybersecurity insincerely, buying it indiscriminately, and deploying it ineffectively? Well, perhaps we are. Let's look at how we can organize a successful information security program that integrates business culture with people, process, and technology to drive growth and protect business value.
Imperva is the cybersecurity leader whose mission is to protect data and all paths to it with a suite of integrated application and data security solutions. Learn more at imperva.com.
Pantera, the leader in automation security validation, allows organizations to continuously test the integrity of all cybersecurity layers by emulating real-world attacks at scale to pinpoint the exploitable vulnerabilities and prioritize remediation towards business impact. Learn more at pantera.io.
And hello, everybody. You're very welcome to a new episode of Redefining CyberSecurity Podcast. I am your host, Sean Martin, where I help security leaders and business leaders get a different view for how we can redefine cybersecurity for the benefit of the business. And today's topic is no different. What better than looking at cybersecurity program as a profit center, not as a cost center? Not necessarily a new topic, but perhaps things have changed enough where this is something we can explore and achieve, perhaps. So we're going to do that with Robert Fernandes. Robert, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sean.
Yep, pleasure. And as with many of my conversations, they're usually triggered or inspired or, usually drawn from a post that I've seen, and today's session is no different. You did a cybersecurity as a profit center, transforming risk into opportunity post on LinkedIn, Robert, and we're gonna dig into that with you and go beyond that, where we'll see where the conversation goes. But before we get into the topic, a few words about who Robert is. I like to say where I was hatched, but we're kind of look back in time. What have you been up to, and what are you working on now?
Yeah, so I'm CISO at the Investment Center, a financial service provider out of New Jersey. So I deal a lot with obviously risk and executive buy-in and things like that, which is where this sort of topic kind of arises from. I also run a nonprofit. I do free cybersecurity training for at-risk and underprivileged individuals. Partnered with Google for that. I've been working on that for a while now, and I'm just kind of do a lot of public speaking, keynoting, and things like that.
Fantastic. I don't know, maybe there's another conversation in the nonprofit. I'm always interested in that stuff too. So perhaps we can line something up there. So what was the catalyst behind putting this post together on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like anything in the industry, when you deal with a lot of different situations on a daily basis. There's certain things that just kind of pop into your mind. Well, that's really what happened here. I do see a lot of misconceptions today about cyber, and I think kind of to your point, things have sort of changed over the years, which sort of draws a completely different picture around cyber today. But I don't think a lot of people who are outside of the cybersecurity practice or the cybersecurity realm really understand what these differences are. And a lot of them still have old misconceptions that are driving their thoughts and driving the way they're doing business around cyber.
And so for what it's worth, a lot of my background is in bringing security products to market. Many years at Symantec doing that. And we often looked at the cost of buying and using technology as a way to reduce cost and expense and obviously risk for a cybersecurity program and ultimately for a business. But this is beyond that, what you're talking about, right? This is not just the tech stack we're using, but how do we actually take a cybersecurity program and drive value and not be a cost center? Maybe explain a little bit more about what the scope of what you're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as you and I both mentioned now, that times have changed. You're starting to see more things such as, third parties that are sending out security questionnaires, potential clients that are sending out security questionnaires, insurance companies that are sending out security questionnaires. There's so many things that are driving it now. There's more regulations than ever, and I think there's just going to be more coming. And really, you can't even be in business anymore in a lot of areas without, concentrating on cybersecurity. And I just think that there's ways that, we look at cybersecurity historically as that it's only been a cost, it's only been an insurance policy and nothing more. And now now if you utilize your security posture and promote that and market that in a way that this will attract clients, I think it can be as good of, sometimes even maybe better, a marketing campaign than your typical marketing campaigns that are pushed out there. For example, right? So, everybody knows about the damages and the costs of a data breach. They know that it could potentially harm your reputation. And I just think that if we get our ducks in a row with the way that we approach security, and we can understand and how it could make us, a market leader in our own industries if we're doing cybersecurity right, and use that as a selling point, as opposed to just kind of this insurance policy that's trying to protect us sort of just in case.
And there's a few things rattling around in my brain, but do you have any parallels from other industries we can draw upon? Because I'm thinking of, you mentioned, we know the cost of a breach. And if I look at something in the manufacturing, there's always the cost of somebody getting hurt. And there's a big board on the wall that says so many days of no or being accident free, right?
Sure.
Which then presumably paints a better picture and a better business, right? So that the shop's not shut down, you can actually produce more, you get better coverage from an insurance perspective. Partners probably want to deal with you more if they know you're not harming your employees. So are there that might be a parallel, but are there others like that you can think of?
Yeah, I could actually think of numerous parallels. For example, grocery stores aren't just selling food, right? They're selling safe food. Restaurants aren't just selling safe food. They're selling safe food and services and, an experience and, making sure that they have a good experience, right? So there's a lot of safety and things included in that. And to your point about, automobile manufacturers, they're not just providing vehicles of transportation, right? Some of them are providing comfort, luxury, and of course, safety. So there's a lot of parallels there where and I think it even goes a little bit deeper than to just using cybersecurity, your cybersecurity posture as a marketing campaign. But I think it's also important to rethink the way we look at security altogether and understand that it is part of our product as a whole. It's not just something that's keeping our product safe. It's something that is part of our product. It's built into our product, whatever that product might be. And if we look at it that way, the same way, like I mentioned, the grocery stores and the restaurants and the car manufacturers, hospitals, so on and so forth, I just really believe that cybersecurity should be a selling point that's incorporated as a core component of the product, and not only the product, of the company as a whole. Especially, when you start to get into more areas where you are talking about things that are highly sensitive, such as data, hospital, you have PHI, you have PII, things like that. And it's the fact that organizations still look at security as this sort of added on thing that's like after the fact of their, their product design and their product builds and all of this implementation they're putting in place. And then, okay, maybe we'll throw some security in around these other things here and there in our networks and our servers and our firewalls and so on and so forth. I really think that, the security is part of the product itself, the core part of the product. And if you're selling that as part of it, I think it's definitely, it will transform things from that, cost center to a profit center. And I think it's just a way of thinking that historically we have, thought of it as an insurance policy. And nowadays people are seeing more data breaches, seeing more security incidents, and they're starting to demand it more. So it is in essence a selling point.
Yeah, and I was going to ask so many questions in my head, but I was going to ask, is the market ready? Is the customer ready for that marketing pitch? And will they recognize the value, or will they be misguided? If everybody just says we're secure, how do they know, right? To what level is security built into the product or service?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, right? Because, I find that one of the biggest challenges that I have in my position is educating those around me, whether it be an end user or whether it be an employee or whether it be a board member or an executive. Education is really key to making sure that everybody understands these things. So I do think that, as we move forward with this, I do think you're going to start seeing more, educational campaigns that will help the the end user or the potential customer to understand the differences between, the fluff and the shiny things and the buzzwords. And, I mean, I feel like a lot of us security practitioners are still trying to weed through all of the buzzwords and things like that. And, we every time we get a new RSA or a new Black Hat conference, we get new buzzwords, and it's kind of weeding through a lot of that noise. But I think, as security practitioners are concerned, we're used to it. The customers, clients, not so much. Same things with dealing with like cyber insurance, things like that, understanding what's in your policy. A lot of these things are very education based. And I think that actions always speak louder than words in our industry. I always like to tell people, everybody is susceptible to a breach or an incident. It's a matter of how you react and how you learn from those incidents and what you do moving forward, and looking at a track record of an organization and not just their words that they're throwing around in their marketing campaigns.
Yeah. So what, I'm just thinking here, the built into, well, I guess if you think about the like service level agreements, right? So if you're going to commit to, I mean, I think it's easy to look at B2B, right? We're gonna have a relationship. There's a trust there. It's a very, very finite number of customer partners we're working with. We can have those conversations and kind of work through the language and what we're offering and why we're able to meet a certain service level because of the investments we're making in our security programs. When you get to the consumer end user, it becomes a little more difficult. So I don't know, any thoughts on that, to how to translate what we offer and bake in the security into that message?
Well, I mean, just sort of taking a step from the business to business, like what we're seeing a lot now. I don't know if this will translate to customer facing, but in regards to, a lot of business to business now, what we're starting to see more from a lot of these cybersecurity, product solution providers, things like that, is we're starting to see more warranties on their offerings. Maybe we'll start seeing that on more client-facing things as well, where there are warranties built in that if there is a breach as a result of of our product, then we will provide you with a warranty, some sort of a guarantee that this sort of thing won't happen as a result of our product. Maybe consumers will start demanding that more because we're getting more and more breaches. I know a lot of things have to change, and I mean we could probably have whole conversations around the fact that we're still using social security numbers to identify ourselves, and a few other things that are kind of really pique my curiosity as to why we're not even having the conversations of using 9 numbers to identify ourselves for some of the most critical things in our lives. But I think a lot of this conversation needs to be moved forward to how do we protect the consumer better? How do we educate the consumer better? Because a lot of it is, unfortunately, education only goes so far. I mean, we have to do a lot more as far as security controls in place and things like that. So, I mean, reaching out to the consumers is you're right. I think it's a hard sell, but I think a lot of it needs to be more the way that we, the security practitioners, are designing and putting out and releasing these products. I think even a lot of the security practitioners, we still have an older mindset from that whole fortress, and it's become so embedded into our thinking that we think that just this defense in depth and stacking one control on top of another, and then another vulnerability comes out and another exploit comes out, and then we stack another control on top of all the other controls that we have in place. I am a real big fan of zero trust and going that sort of model. Not zero trust the buzzword, but zero trust the actual implementation. But these sort of things I think are just ways that we need to approach things a lot better, and we need to make products more secure by design. And I think that's part of our problem as security practitioners, is that we're dealing with a lot of legacy thinking around security that we always had that fortress in mind, and that fortress no longer exists. So it's really a whole new way of thinking that we need to sort of evolve and get away from. It's always been sort of reactionary. We're playing cat and mouse with the threat actors. And we think we're doing a great job until we're not, right? And then there's something else we have to figure out. But I think it's educating our IT practitioners. It's educating end users. It's obviously, I shouldn't even need to say this. Every listener of yours probably knows this already, but it's obviously getting the buy-in from, the board and the leadership to make sure that it's baked into every aspect of it, and it's thought through from, the original concept all the way to implementation and development and release.
Yeah, well, and I'm glad you went there, because that's where I wanted to go, is getting the buy-in. Because bringing it back specifically to Profit Center, there's no question that some deals are often tied to one's security posture, right? Mm-hmm. So there's probably some third-party questionnaire to evaluate, or do you have this? Do you meet this ISO? Do you meet this NIST? Do you follow this NIST? Do you have this SOC 2? Whatever it might be, right? Are you HIPAA compliant? That unlocks revenue, right? So I think that's an easy one to say. You can only get this profit if you unlock this opportunity by being secure. So that's an easy one to follow. I'm just wondering, is there something in your experience where we can kind of dial that up a notch to say, don't just answer the questionnaire so we can unlock that deal. Let's evaluate what the questionnaire is really trying to get at, and ensure that we're doing this right, so that we can repeat that process. I know a lot of CISOs now go on sales calls and BD calls, biz dev calls, to put a face to the questionnaire as well, to help sell some of this stuff. So I'm just wondering, are there things companies can do to move that needle just a little bit further beyond unlocking a deal through a questionnaire?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, like you said, getting involved in the sales calls and everything like that is important, but it's doing the work before the calls, right? That's even more important. But I would say that one of the biggest things that I think every organization can do, if they're not already doing it, is to start breaking down those silos that are within all the companies that we deal with. It's way too often that security is in its own silo, as marketing is in its own silo, as operations is in its own silo, and understanding that the world we live in is very dynamic and things are changing so quickly and rapidly, and we need to be all on the same page. We need to be very agile, so to speak, and I think in order to do that, we need to have direct lines of communication with everybody. Everybody needs to be involved in the process, especially when it comes to security, because we already know about all the different ways that attackers can get in, from the receptionist to the source code to developing to the website to you name it, right? So when we're working through a lot of these process, I think that one of the biggest things is communication and making sure that everybody's on the same page. I do believe in bringing marketing in a lot, because they're great at communications. That's what they do. So if you can work on educating them about the importance of security and why you do what you do, you get buy-in from other departments to help you with your security efforts. And if you can get that from the marketing department, I mean, that's a great department to get in with. But I mean, explaining to them that, hey, if you spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars on this marketing campaign or this recruiting campaign or this cold calling campaign or whatever it is that you're doing, and you get that one big potential, quote unquote whale, that's this is going to change everything for the organization. And if you're not already doing the security things, like we said, the work put in, making sure you have the controls in place, so when those security questionnaires come around, maybe to your question, maybe instead of just answering it, say, you know what, maybe we'll one up you and we'll give you a little bit of a tour of how we're doing these things, show them some dashboards and show them some things that we can show them, to show them our posture and show them what we actually have in place and how long we've had it in place. And if you've gone through audits, obviously that's a great thing, but a lot of time that ends up being another checkbox. But I think showing organizations that security is part of your culture, to me, is one of the bigger selling points than just answering the questionnaires, and showing that you have somebody that's thinking about security for your organization, showing that person is embedded into all of the leadership conversations and decisions within the organization, and things like that. So I think that, breaking down the silos, working with those teams, educating, working with, marketing, showing that, here's the ramifications of, you putting all the effort and money into making that one big sale, and then now you can't make it because we're not doing the right things.
So much there. And I'm glad you brought up marketing, because another thing in my mind, what is marketing? It's bringing in leads and prospects so that sales can close a deal. What's R&D? It's building something that sales can sell. What's security? Can it not be both? I guess you make investments in marketing, you make investments in R&D. Those are cost centers designed to enable something to be sold and to enable sales to connect and reach and connect with the prospects. I'm a firm believer in many of the episodes recently. I've kind of looked at this, where I believe security has information, data, knowledge about how things work. So in partnership with the CIO, for example, you might be able to say, we can gain efficiencies by tweaking this tech stack, modifying our controls around it because we've modified the tech stack to be less exposed or whatever. And that's going to unlock the opportunity to close 10 times more deals, or to offer a new service in the product that we weren't able to before because of the way we're developing the stack and putting controls on top of it. Do you have any experience or first thoughts on that, or maybe any stories that might shed some light on that's an opportunity where security is part of the R&D process to enable a better product to be sold, and the marketing, which we kind of talked about, to help communicate we have a better product, not just because it's more secure, but because it's also faster and more nimble and scalable, whatever else that matters.
Yeah, I mean, it's so again, I work in financial sector, so we don't create a product, so to speak, but our products would be sort of investment products and things like that. And I mean, when the way that I look at it, a lot of it in the financial world really comes down to a lot of trust, right? So to me, trust is the product. And if you're working with a financial advisor, it's because you trust that financial advisor, because you're trusting them with your life savings. You're trusting them with your retirement. You're trusting them with so many different things, with your, the potential for your child to go to, the university. So there's so many things that you're thinking about here with trust. And if we are, as CISOs for financial service providers, responsible for, everything that goes around that, then we are ultimately responsible for that trust as well. And it really is a selling point. I like to make sure that security is a conversation in all of the conferences that we have, all of the events that we have. I put myself sometimes in front of clients if financial advisors have questions, or I'm sorry, if their clients have questions about the security. I say, anytime, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have that discussion with your clients. We could talk about security that's, around where your funds are stored, how we handle things, how we secure your assets, and so on and so forth. So that is always a selling point. I haven't seen any good sort of metrics on how we can, or maybe I just haven't taken the time to put it together, as far as how, securing X, Y, and Z can generate more leads and more, potential clients and things like that. But that would be a good number to take a look at. I always find that for like the good numbers for me, always looking at the insurance companies are one of the best areas to look for those sorts of things. Because I feel like as security practitioners, we always have a hard time sort of quantifying like the efficiency and the value of certain controls that we implement and things like that. But insurance providers who are paying out cyber policies and things like that, they tend to do it really good because their money is on the line for that. So they end up having a lot of really good data. So I mean, but in regards to implementing this control in order to say that we're going to bring on this much more revenue, I haven't actually seen that or done that yet. But that is a good idea, something to think about.
Yeah, because I can't tell you how many times, companies spend a lot tuning the marketing dials, yep. Right? You can find that best. And I'm just like, can we not do the same for security and have it do that same type of thing for the business? And I'm glad we're on the same wavelength here in terms of what we think about, because you mentioned cyber insurance, and I want to tie that back to your point on trust. Trust is your product. And how do you communicate trust to your clients? Then they don't care about what controls necessarily. But if you have a great policy from a cyber insurance company or broker or whatever that increases your level, and you're able to also save a lot of money on your policy cost, right? The premium. To me, that says trust, because to your point, they're the ones with their money on the line, right? So they've evaluated, they trust you're doing the right thing, which to me translates, or at least relays to the customer, that they should also trust you. So I don't know how we leverage the cyber insurance message as a part of communicating trust. But I think there's something there as well.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something there as well. But I do like the idea a lot of just getting out in front of people, getting out in front of your employees, getting out in front of, like in my case, financial advisors, getting out in front of the clients, showing them that you're proactive about things, explain to them your thought process. Again, going back to the silo reference earlier, I think that not only are we a lot of times within the organization very siloed, but I also think that oftentimes the way we speak to people can appear to be siloed, because a lot of times we speak in our acronyms, and we use terms that people don't understand. And I think explaining to them like the method behind our madness of why we do things is really shows them that we're forward thinking and we're not just being reactionary. Because I do think a lot of people believe that that security is always reactionary. And I don't think that a lot of people understand how much work goes in before the fact to try to prevent and mitigate a lot of these risks that are out there. But having those conversations with people, I think, is a very important issue. And going back to what I said a little earlier was, I think there's still a lot of misconceptions. I know that, I see business owners, more small, medium-sized business owners that, I have conversations with sometimes, and they talk to me about cybersecurity, things like that. And, it's like, oh, I'm going to go ask my MSP, or I'm going to go ask my tech person. And I'm like, okay, but just understand that, they're not really, experts in cybersecurity. They might understand the cybersecurity controls and the cybersecurity tooling that they're putting in place. They might really understand the firewall that they put in and their configs that they have on the firewall. And they might really understand those things really well. But you have to understand as a business owner that cybersecurity is way more than IT. IT is just a small component of cybersecurity. And, the bigger picture is that as cybersecurity practitioners, it's our jobs to help to manage business risk as a whole. And the IT risk is just a small portion of that. So I think that, educating business owners to understand where, a lot of times you get it's like when the person comes to you with their problem and they tell you their problem and you're listening and you're like, oh, wait a second. That's not actually your problem. I will tell you what your problem is. They think they know the problem, but they don't, because of misconceptions they have around cyber and things like that. And I think that educating the end users, and especially the business leadership, as far as what cybersecurity really is and where it needs to sit within the organization and things like that are also important.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think you make a point at the end of your post about sustainability. And I think the ultimate goal is to grow and sustain that growth, right? And to build upon it. And if the weakest chain in the link or link in the chain or whatever is cybersecurity, that's going to ultimately prevent you from achieving your desired outcomes there, you might want to think about your investment and how you communicate and invest. So I encourage everybody to read this article. There's a lot of cool stuff in there we didn't get to touch on today, but it's transforming risk into opportunity. And Robert, it's been great chatting with you. And hopefully this gets people thinking. Certainly got me thinking a little bit more.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. It was a good conversation.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for everybody for listening and watching if you happen to catch the video. And please do subscribe, stay tuned. Many more chats here on Redefining Cybersecurity. Thanks again, Robert. Keep well, everybody.
Thank you.
Pantera, the leader in automation security validation, allows organizations to continuously test the integrity of all cybersecurity layers by emulating real-world attacks at scale to pinpoint the exploitable vulnerabilities and prioritize remediation towards business impact. Learn more at pantera.io.